Are you ready to go, Ryan?
Yeah, I think we can go.
All right. Welcome, everybody, to the Sensei Ask-An-Expert webinar for June 2025. Today, our topic is on sorry, Ryan, could you?
Sorry.
Improve project and portfolio risk management with AI support. Thank you, Ryan. All right. So a few housekeeping before we begin. If you do have a question, you can use your raise your hand here. Otherwise, could you please remain on mute throughout the presentation? This session is being recorded and will be sent out to you after. And there'll also be a Q&A session at the end. But if you did have a question, just feel free to put it in. All right. Thank you, Ryan. So today we have Ryan Darby as our main presenter, but we also have Ben Cousins and Theo Osman, who has helped the technical side of this. So I'll pass it back over to you, Ryan, to begin.
Thank you very much, Ellie. Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to the end of the financial year. I'm surprised anyone's actually got time to attend this, but thank you very much for coming along. We're going to look at AI, as is everyone these days, but we're going to look at a few basic concepts. We're going to look at how it can be applied within the risk space. Specifically, we're going to be looking at agents, so AI agents, and we're going to look at a bit of an interface as to how would things be different if you now had agents as opposed to a traditional project management system. We'll also look at some of the lessons we have found from another client actually about data and what you've got to do to get your data right before this will actually start working for you. And there are a few questions that were sent in, so we will leave some time for questions at the end. Now, we're going to start with a poll. And we ask this question a lot because things change all the time. So the question is, and Ellie will launch the poll in a second, the question is, who's using Copilot or any other AI for project management at the moment? Not even risk, just general project management.
The poll should be up, Ryan.
Okay, now I can't actually see it because I've got a full screen. So Ellie, I'm going to ask you to just narrate a bit as to how the percentages are coming in.
Yeah, so at the moment we've got 63%, so 15 people are saying yes, we are. We've got 32% saying 8, so you don't know how to start doing it properly, and 2 at 8% saying no, not allowed to.
Okay. I'm glad I'm not one of the 8%, but I'm sure that this will become easier for you in the future. Quite pleased that over half of you are using it already. I'd love to talk to some of you about that and what you're actually doing. For those of you, the 8% who were not too sure about how to get started, we can actually help you with that. And we actually have a workshop that can help you figure out just what is this AI thing and how do we think about it and what does it mean to us. So feel free to reach out to, you can reach out to me directly or to your account manager if you've got one, and they can hook you up with that. Okay, now, one of the questions we got was what AI platforms will be explored? It's an interesting question, but it's actually a very good question. Obviously, because it's Sensei, it's going to be Microsoft-based solutions. So today we will be looking at Microsoft Copilot and Copilot agents. Now, why do we do that? Well, the reason we do that is because these come from Microsoft. I know that sounds like, yeah, okay, whatever. But the point is, you have security you can trust already taken care of there. Microsoft spends over $1 billion a year on research around security. So this is completely under your control in your environment. It inherits all the same security you have. It's not going outside for data. It's not sending data out. And you know then that it's as secure as all your other Microsoft applications. So this is really important around AI. Everyone thinks about this. Secondly, it complies to all your other policies. The way you've set your organization, your IT up, all of that, Copilot just fits in underneath. And it just kind of works with everything. So it's not like you are installing a whole new service that you've got to worry about. It just fits in. It's completely private, completely secure. The data is not going out. This is the main thing. It stays in your tenant with all your other applications from Microsoft. And it is also grounded within the responsible AI principles. So people can't use it for the wrong thing. Okay, so I'm going to stress this probably several times because it is really important. So when we say Copilot, what do we mean? Well, Copilot is the front end that gives you an AI front end, a language model front end, a chat essentially. And behind it sits agents. So people will increasingly be talking about agents, and we'll look a little bit about what that actually means. But you can think of it physically as I go to a web browser, or maybe it's on my phone, or however you're doing it with Teams, and I can talk to something. I can say, hey, risk bot, tell me what the highest priority risks are. And what the risk bot is doing is it's taking what you've written on the front end, and it's then going and finding an agent in the back end saying, hey, you're the risk agent, go get this information for me. And the risk agent will think, well, how will I do this? I will maybe go to the Alta system because we've got a good project management system here with some risks in it. And I will pull those up. And then I'll think, but he's asked for what's the highest priority. What does priority mean? Oh, look, the PMO's got a document that describes all the different priorities around risk. So I'll go and learn from that. And then I'll come up with the answer, and I'll give it back to Copilot, and there it is on the screen. Okay. So in a simple way, when people talk Copilot and agents, it's kind of the same thing, but it's not actually. There is some more work in the back end, but you access the agent through Copilot, except, little asterisks on that, agents can work all by themselves. You don't have to use them through Copilot. We will look at that as we go through today. So what is this agent thing? The agent is just an assistant. It's an intelligent assistant that can do things for you, can carry out tasks, make decisions, interact with other systems, call people, get input from people. This is a very simplified and incorrect way of describing it, but it's almost like there's a smart workflow in the back end that is able to go and do things for you, monitor what's actually going on out there, and then seeing data change, new things appear in systems, work by itself, and then go and update something for you. Think of it as that intelligent assistant. You all would love to have a personal assistant following you around, doing things for you. This is a personal assistant on your computer, okay? So if you remember when you were children, you were told that you needed to learn how to do maths, and because you wouldn't have a calculator in your pocket all the time, or you do these days. And then more recently, someone probably told you you've got to learn to do hard work for yourself, and you accepted that. Well, not so much anymore. A lot of the grunt work that we don't want to do can now start being done by agents for us. Now, why do you want this? Well, of course, we want a personal assistant following us around. But if we think about agents and we start thinking about risk management, which is the topic of today, this is kind of like a marriage. It's just made in heaven. So when you start using agents and you use them to take care of some of that grunt work for you, you'll find that trust overall in the data you're getting, using to make decisions, starts going up. Because the agents are doing that grunt work, they're taking care of the admin, making sure it's actually getting done. They're updating data, actually doing that. They are doing the governance that everyone would love to do and no one has time for. Well, you've got a governance assistant now for you. This means you're happier, so your satisfaction goes up. You get to spend more time on the company's goals, the big picture we always want to be focusing on. And everything that gets done is just more consistent as we're going through it. Now, as a result of that, your risk decreases because you are not wasting so much time doing admin work. You get time to focus on what's important. So the uncertainty of what's going on, do I actually know what's going on? Uncertainty comes down. The amount of time and cost you spend comes down. So life gets easier, risk comes down, people start trusting your output a lot more. That's why we really want to use these. Now, when we think about project managers, there are a lot of project managers on the call, it becomes very simple. You get to focus on important things. You spend less time on less important things. You get to spend more time on the tasks you should be doing and get rid of some of that admin work that is submitted none of us like and project management's full of. Okay? And if you are doing repetitive work, you actually get to do more of that if you wanted to, but do the higher value stuff. So you focus on why your project is being done and less about the administration of the project. This picture was the person who created this picture, maybe on the call. If you are, thank you for letting me use that. But basically, you get to spend more time on fighting fires. Less. You get to focus on the big picture, less time on just fighting fires because of incomplete data, misunderstandings, etc. Now, we're going to go to another poll. And this one is now specifically around risk management. So we're going to get into now, we've kind of led into this, we're going into risk now. So Ellie's going to start the poll up, And what we're
Yep.
asking here is, who's using AI specifically for risk management?
All right, I'll give it a couple of seconds. We've got 32 respondents at the moment.
Yeah, we've got
All
heaps of people
right.
on the call. Come on, you should all be either using it or not using it.
All right, we'll go from, so the top one is, oh, it's getting a bit close, but 30%, so 12 people, have thought about it, but no opportunity to do it. Another
Okay.
30%, so 12 people, no, haven't thought about it. We've got 17%, so 7 at yes, we are, and 10% at don't know how it would work.
Okay, so there's a good number of you who need to figure out how to work, identify the opportunities, and find that pragmatic way forward on this. As I said earlier on, we do have a standardized workshop we can take you through that helps you think about these things. Feel free to reach out. We are happy to do that with you. Okay, talk to your account manager. You do not need to necessarily pay for that. Those of you who are using it, I'd love to hear from you if you ever feel like talking about this stuff as to what you're actually doing. Now, I expected a lot more people to say they're not actually doing it. So what I've thought about and spoke to a few people about is, what is going wrong with risk? What's not being done out there in terms of managing risk? You know, what we would like to do. So what we know happens is project managers have a risk register. Some of them updated, some of them do not update it. But that risk registers do not equal the management of risk. It's a tiny piece of it. So what's not being done? Well, one thing we're seeing people complain about is that there just is no time. There is no time to actually govern risk. There are seldom roles that can focus on risk there. You'd love to have a big PMO with a risk expert in it. PMs are quite inconsistent in what they do, probably because they're fighting fires, or they don't want to do the boring admin work in terms of this. A lot of people are saying that, well, risk tends to be within the project, and that's great for the project team, but they're not thinking about the risk in relation to strategy. So risk that is going to derail this project and what the impact of that actually is longer term. And they're not necessarily thinking about the dependencies between projects or learning from the past. So we repeat the same thing over and over again. New project manager, same problems, okay? A lot of them are, their risk process is a reporting process, not a management process. So what they're doing is they're typing it in, and then they can report on it. And the governance is all about checking they've typed it in, not about is this risk actually of any use, or this management of any use. Okay. So as a result, you end up with very poor quality risk management coming out of that. Now, with those problems, we need to think about a way that we can think about risk more holistically. And this is where we start bringing in that missing piece, the very top one. We need the time. What we need is a little army of risk assistants that can follow us around and do all those roles in the PMO that we just always wanted to do, but we're too busy dealing with, well, probably reporting in Excel. And that's where we start bringing agents in. So here's what we think about agents. We think, well, he's going on about agents. What does he mean? If I had to think of my own agents, the simplest way to think about it is it's a role or a persona. So I could start off and I could think, well, okay, I would like a role that can detect risks and advise me on what risks I should think about. I would like it to look at all the past data we've got. This could be in our Delta system. It could be documents. It could be, we have emails, we have SharePoint, all these things. So whenever I come up with something new or something changes, hey, tell me what I should be thinking of. Okay, look out for me when I'm in the trenches fighting the fires. Then what I would like is for this thing to actually help me create the risk. And what I don't want to do is get a long list of suggestions and say, here you are, go and type this in. I don't have time to type the current stuff in. Where am I going to get time to type the new stuff in? So can it help me in an easy way to create this? So if it's doing the typing for me, or maybe I'm doing some typing, I do need the PMO off my back. So the PMO is going on about the quality of risks is not great. They're not typed up in a standard way. Language is bad within them. And could we fix that? And could we save the PMO some time and make this suitable for a wider audience? A lot of PMOs, and I bet a lot of people on this call, are rewriting things 2 or 3 times. Every status report gets rewritten 2 or 3 times because we need a different version for this executive. We need a different version for that committee. And there's a slightly different spin on each one of these, but you're just retyping all of these things as you go through. And then ultimately, this is all just a very nice way to create a better risk register. What I need now is something that can monitor the risk, detect any sort of hint out there that something's going wrong, is any chatter out there, and then advise me of the impact. And then come and make a lot of noise about the impact and make sure that governance is taken care of, that all the data is actually updated, the communication, all this advice that we want going on, is this actually happening? And can you check this is happening? So this is essentially 6, 7 different assistants that you have. And if you think of the way we're thinking of these risk agents, you would have one for each of these. When you break them down into individual parts, they're not that big a problem to actually create. And it means we look at risk management holistically. So today we are going to look at a tiny little piece of one of these, but because if we try to go through the lot, we'll spend the rest of the week here. Okay, the last piece, the animation on there was, well, when you're advising, I want you to look a bit wider at all the noise out there, the Teams chatter, the meeting minutes, all these things, all the other data, and start giving me a hint of what's going on. Remember, I want an assistant. I don't want to type it in myself.
Hey, Ryan,
Okay,
we just have a question come through quickly, which I think...
My question already, yeah.
Yeah, so from Jonah, what inputs are required for the AI agent to provide risk advice and detection?
I am going to cover that off as we get to the end. I will look at some of the inputs and I will look at how you need to make sure those are clean and useful as well. So I think it was Joanna. Hang on a second. A few slides in, we will get to that. Okay, now let's assume you have these agents in place. A couple of things happen, and it's really around a shift in roles. So you have a world where you're in now where humans are doing all the work. Humans work with other humans. Humans, within their limited ability, this is coming directly to the question, humans struggle to be aware of everything that's going on. So I can be talking directly to Ellie. Ellie can be talking to somebody else, and I don't know about that. There can be Teams messages going on. There can be a lot of meeting minutes, a lot of documentation. There can be emails going on. This is what something like Copilot really helps us unlock. Okay, so in the past, we used to, when we were installing Altus and the predecessors, we talk about unlocking your data for reporting, get it out of the Excel, etc. Now we want to unlock, like liberate that data for use in AI, for use by our assistants. Let's not even call it AI. So the human has to figure out what's going on. They then got to sit down, find the time to sit down and type it into a computer. That's if they remember to do it and if they want to do it. Mostly people leave it till reporting day and they forget. Then someone else comes and checks if they've actually done it properly. And then someone goes and manually creates a lot of reporting. Still a lot of manual reporting out there. If we move forward, we have a world where humans do the work with other humans, including AI assistants. So we can sit and we can have a meeting about risk. That can be transcribed. So this will happen very often on a project. Is all the project meetings through the planning process can be recorded by teams and transcribed. The risk advice agent comes along and says, okay, I've looked at your project brief, I've looked at your business case, I have looked at the overall strategy of this organization, I've looked at all the past work you guys have been doing, I've looked at your current, what everyone's actually been saying, so it's like I'm in the room, it is in the room with you essentially, and I'm going to therefore give you suggestions as a result. If during this it picks up something it's not discussion around a risk, maybe it's an issue that's been raised, okay, you can figure that out, and it will then raise that as an issue. Okay, this does of course mean you need good data, but let's get another AI assistant to help us check that data, and then we need someone to then spread this data around and make sure the right the right people get the right insights. Again, let the agents do that for us. So we're using them to do all of the communication, or basically catch up on all the workflow and reporting that we wish we had in our old system, say. This can do it for us. So if you look at what's on the right, the physical effort by a human is get together, talk with other humans, do the work. Let the work not include writing stuff, typing stuff, The agents will do this for us. Okay, so this is a little bit of a ideal world, but this is exactly what we can do now, actually, and where we are going. The idea is efficient project managers or lazy project managers make the robots do it. Okay, we're now going to go into another poll, and this is about the data. So, when do you update that risk register? I'm actually really interested in finding out the answer to this one. If you're all updating the risk registers religiously, bet you're not, but then we're not going to need any of these agents. But let's see. So, Ellie, how's it looking?
15 responses, so I'll leave it a little bit.
There are 71 here on the call, and I know if you slack and you never do it until you get shouted at, please fill it in anyway.
All right, I'll wait till we get up to 40, I think.
Okay, that's good numbers.
Okay. 7 more, please. All right, we got 36, so we'll go from here. So okay. The top one is 39% at 15, that I set aside regular time for admin to do it. The next one is 23% at 9 on reporting days. And then we've got 20% at 8 people as I discover the risk. 12% at 5 when some manager makes me, and just 1 person if and when I remember.
Okay, so that 1 person is my sole person because I do this type of thing if and when I remember, and then the manager makes me. A bit of a lower number than I thought. They were just doing it on reporting day. And the people who are doing it as they discover them, good for you. I'm really glad to hear that. And you've some very conscientious people setting time aside for it. Okay, now I did see a hand go up. We'll just briefly, we've got a bunch to get through, but who was it? Alice?
Yeah, just to let you know, Ryan, the poll's not coming up in the meeting like it normally does. So I'm not seeing the poll. Maybe other people also don't have access to the chat. So
okay, interesting.
The poll came up for us. Yeah. The poll came up for us.
Okay.
I will have a look at that for you.
Eddie will have a look. We can't fix it right now, I think, but Eddie will see what you can do. Okay, so the point of this is, for those of you who are setting time aside, all those options rarely led to the need for time. And that time was spent writing. Who wants to be an author? I want to be an editor. They make the money. Okay. So imagine a world instead where I, the project manager, can do work. Work is happening between people and meetings being recorded in Teams, in Outlook, in whatever. Okay. I can have an agent monitor this, and then it can come to me and say, hey, project manager, did you know we found a new risk? Well, I found a new risk. What do you think? At that point, I can wake up and think, okay, I'll look at this thing. Yeah, actually, I'm okay with it. Or now I'll make some changes. And then it gets put into the project system. You may recognize that is the Altus risk register. What I, as a project manager, only get involved in doing the work and checking the documentation thereof. I don't have to do the process of what most people are doing is sitting in a meeting, writing it down. Project managers love pens, okay, and they write stuff down. They then go and sit down and update that risk register if they can remember it. To do it, they have to hunt through emails and Teams messages and let me go find the minutes of that meeting if you have such a thing. These days, if you are good, you're recording meetings with Copilot, and that can make life a lot easier for you. But all we're conceptually, we're just going back to the old days of stenographers sitting in the corner doing this. You've got Copilot doing it for you. So if we get agents in place doing these things for us, it means you focus on checking it's right and then doing something about it. Therefore, you spend more time actually managing the risk, which brings down the risk of your project. Okay, that's the world we want to get to. Let's get away from the grunt work. So we're going to look at a little bit of a demo now. So we do have a bit of time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through a bit of a demo, just a few small things, and not the whole story, because it'll take a bit of time to build that. And then afterwards, we will look at some of the data preparation you need to do. So let's hope the demo gods work with us. So the first thing is, one of those agents was about, can we just be aware of other risk out there, of other work out there. What an agent's very good at is making sure that you are able to get visibility into things that have happened in the past or are happening on other projects. So what I've got here is a business case, a proposal, and I'm just getting AI to go in and just check. Some of you may have seen this before. I'm getting it to go and check what are things that are relevant for me. So again, I don't want to, the risk of a business case is you make the same mistakes. So what it's doing here is it's actually gone in and it has come up with what it thinks you need to improve in this business case. It's also then said there are some lessons out there from old projects that you should really consider. So it's telling us about these. It's telling us in this case there's a duplicate benefit. You're probably reclaiming a benefit. And then it's come up with some risks and some issues. And the whole idea is you can say, yep, I agree with that one. I agree with that one. This issue, you know what, actually, this is an issue now. I'm going to start with this issue, and then I can clone it in. So what this does is it gives you the AI assistant. Remember, it's your personal assistant. And what this one is doing is it's that old gray-haired project manager who's been there for 30 years and knows everyone and everything. That's who this is. And they are making sure you know what you need to know. So we now start our project and we're all very happy. And we then start thinking, okay, we're in the risk workshop now. We're talking about our risks. And we need to actually start thinking about them and making sure, because we know now that the PMO is talking about getting AI in to make sure we're actually doing all the right things. We want to make sure that our risks are structured in the way we need to. So I'm doing this through a front end. The thing with agents is a lot of it happens in the back end. So it's really tricky to demo it. I need to give you something that's pleasing to the eye as well. So what we're doing here is we are having a standard agent. Sounds like a simple thing, but PMO people seem to love this. What this one is doing is it's actually taken a little risk that I've written up, and maybe that came off a meeting transcript, and it's going and looking at a document that the PMO has written to say, this is how we want risks to be structured, how we want them to be written, the format, this is the type of information you should have in them. It turns out, if you start looking up risk standards, the governments around the world do a good job of this. And you don't just write some stuff down very casually, but there are ways of structuring the logic through a risk. And if you do that, it means you've thought about it, but it means the AI has now got something to work with. So it's gone through and it's actually given us a bit of advice on how you should actually improve this, okay? So the reason to this is to get better data and get something that if some sort of auditor looks at this, they're going to look and think, yeah, you know what, this person actually has not only thought about the risk, they're showing a structure to their thinking, they can show they've actually thought about everything, and they can show they're doing something about it. As opposed to, it's kind of like, oh, risk bad, must do something, which is kind of what most people are doing. So this is we're looking at a Copilot front end, there's an agent behind it, it's looking at internal PMO information. If this is wired up fully, but not for a demo, what it would do is it would take the risks you would store into Altus, and it would then rewrite those for you, and then come back to you and say, hey, here's a draft, I've rewritten this. What do you think? Just check this quickly. Remember, human in the loop. We never replace the humans. We just get the humans doing more valuable work. Okay, so now I've got risks. I'm starting to actually build out my risks, but we're still in the planning phase of this project, and we have another meeting. And then someone says, hey, what risks do we need to think about over here? And so what I'm going to show you now is just a few little things. It's a risk agent that is a risk advice agent. All right, go in. And what this risk advice agent is doing, it's one of several ways of doing it. I'm showing it to you via a front end, where normally you would have it behind the scenes. What this one is doing is it's looking at all the old risks across all old projects. It's also looking at a standardized set of templated risks that the PMO maintains. And it's saying, well, I've looked up your project, and we're about to get it look up the project, and I've looked up everything I can find on that project, and I have compared it to other similar projects and to what the PMO wants you to focus on. So think about templating. A lot of people ask us about templating. When a project is created, can you inject risks in there automatically? This is doing it in a smarter way. So now, yes, we can inject risks in there. And this one will, you'll see it'll create them and inject them in. I'll show you a better way to do that in a second. But we're able to inject the risks in based on some intelligence on what are actually relevant risks as opposed to just the usual template stuff that people tend to just kind of ignore and delete. Okay. So what it's doing now is it's going in, it's finding risks, it's figuring out some of the details on them, and it will then create these risks for us. So I'm going to let it just do its thing. We'll move on to the next piece. Normally, you wouldn't have it directly update your risk register. So anyone who's panicking about that, no, we don't do that. What it does is it actually puts it into a draft version of that, and you then get to check this. So as I said, human in the loop. So let's look at essentially the same thing, well, it is actually the same thing, but how it would come together in a more realistic way. So we're in that risk meeting still, and we're recording it. So let's say we record our risk meeting, and a meeting transcript is created. Again, because it's hard to, I can't demo that I'm in a meeting and with a meeting transcript. What I can do, though, is upload a transcript that I had prepared earlier. So here we upload a transcript. It's just uploading it. There it is. Okay, so we've got a meeting transcript. So the idea is you can automatically store these meeting transcripts in your project. So if you recognize it, we're in an Altus project over here, in the documents over there. And what is going to happen is this information is now available. The agent listens to this. It can actually detect that this is there. And in this case, we're just doing it instantly. You wouldn't necessarily do it instantly, but you could if you want to, or maybe do it once a week when you want to, when you've got that time set aside to update all this. So it's detected information's there in a meeting transcript. It's reading through it, and it's following its instructions to say, hey, I'm a type of project. I can see what I am. I am able to understand risk because I've been taught all about risk. And I've gone through this, and I can see these humans were talking about risk. They're identifying risks in there. And I want to save someone some time. So instead of them needing to sit and write it down and then come and type it all in, I'm going to start by identifying the risks and make the first step is, do they think these are valid risks that I've actually come up with? This does work on a poll, so it's detected the documents come in there. I know Ben in the background is just monitoring this, so we'll give it a second. And because I'm running out of like cover talk to do here. And
it actually hasn't started for some reason, Ryan, but that's cool. I'm going to force it to start.
Okay, thanks, Ben.
Oh, no, that wasn't it.
And there it is. It was. Yeah, there it is. Okay. So what happens is you get a notification in Teams. So this is, remember, we're dealing with this. This is an Altus example. For those of you who are not using Altus, this works very smoothly in Altus, of course, but it can work in other things as well. Okay, we can use this in Planner Premium, for example. What we're leveraging now is the power of Teams, and I get a notification in Teams, and I'm in the team for the project. So what's nice with Altus is it integrates through to Teams, the projects, and it's come up and it says, hey, RiskBot. The RiskBot has said, I found some risks. Okay, there was a project stand-up meeting, and it indicated there's some risks been identified. You can look at these and think, like, what do you think? So you can go and tick off the ones you agree to. So I'm going to say, you know what, I agree with that one. We'll just deal with one for now. But I want to know more, okay? Before, I'm not committing because I don't know what this thing's about to write in there. So I then say, show me what you have created. And what it does is it goes and it says, hey, I need you to approve this risk. I'm going to create it for you. It's pending. So we make sure you know it's pending, okay? So we want to see what this is about. So first of all, no one in the meeting said who this should be assigned to. So I'm going to assign it to who I'm logged on. It's just that account. Title I'm fine with. I could go and I could change the description if I wanted to. Probability and likelihood, like, yeah, we're going to leave that as it is. I could change it. I could change, what it's related. So whatever I've got in terms of my risk, I can go and update there. And if there's multiple, I could deal with multiple. And then I can go, now if I want to, I'm not sure about this, I can go and click, and I can follow it through to the transcript itself to check. In this case, I'll say, yep, go ahead and create that for me. So what has happened is, at a point, this has come to me. I spend all my time in Teams anyway. I don't know what you are. Between Teams and email, that's where everyone spends their time. So I'm in Teams all day, every way. I'm sitting there, a notification goes off saying, you know what, I found something for you. You should check this. We can set it. If you don't be bugged all the time, you can go and look at it when you want to, or we could say store it up on every Friday afternoon, give it all to us. But the assistant comes to me, knocks on my office door, if you had an office, comes in and says, this is what I have found. This is what I've created for you. What I need you to do is just initial that these are correct. Okay. And then it goes and it writes it in. So if we then look at, we can follow the link. And if you want to actually see it, it then goes and creates our risk in there for us. Okay. Now, at any point, remember, you do have a project system. You still have Altus sitting over there. But at this point, you could go and say, no, like, you know, I need to go and put all the other things in. From previous webinars, you may remember we had AI running on things like the mitigation, etc. So again, even at this point, I would be, it's not installed in this environment, but even on this point, I would be getting the AI to fill the rest in. I just go and check it. Okay, so make it very easy. Now, this is giving me a way to update everything. The reporting is now going to flow a lot easier because of actually, you know it's all in there, and you've got various risk agents making sure it's all complete and written properly, etc. As I said, we're only showing just a little sliver of these agents for today. The last thing I'm going to show is how we can use Copilot. There are many different forms of this, but one of the ways is within Altus itself. So those of you who are Altus subscribers, watch this space. Something coming in the future will be Copilot and Altus on the right. A lot of you, if you go back 18 months or so ago, this popped up and we turned it off for everyone because people are like, yeah, it's in the way, it's not really doing anything for us. This has now advanced quite a lot. There'll be some Altus people on the call having kittens right now saying, I don't show that, but tough, I'm showing it. Talk to us, we can turn this on for you, and now we can actually do something with it. But the Altus team is going to turn this into a really awesome Copilot for you. So I would watch your space because something really awesome is coming this way. But then this is the type of thing it can do. So I'm a manager now. So that probably be done with the project manager. They're working away. Them and their army of robots and former agents are working away. So I will need to know what's going on. I could go and get a report off the PMO, and the PMO will say, you automatically get sent a report created by the AI, and it's written in exactly the language style you like, so don't bother me, okay? Now, what you have seen here is something that worked for my demo, but isn't working now. So something has to go wrong in every demo, okay? It's a demo gods are not happy with me. I must have done something to somebody. But what we're able to do here is we're able to actually go in and we rehearse these things, and this did work. Okay, the point is, if this stuff is all set up and we haven't put all the effort into setting it all up, there we go. Okay, so it's coming up and it's actually coming up with the risks for me. I can get it to create risks. The risk advice I was doing, we can get that to do this and do this as well. So on the call is James who built all this up. All this starts coming together. So I want to, in one place, I want to find out what's going on. I want to get some advice. I want to create a risk. I don't want to have to go and click into the project, into the risk register, push the new button. I guess 3 clicks. Finger will wear out. What I want to do is just get the agent to do it for me. I've got to do the typing anyway, so let me do it in one place and let it do it for me from there. Okay. So this is just showing you a few things that I'm finding quite exciting around risks and specifically around risk agents. There is a lot more to it. So what we are working on is, if you remember this, is the complete story in terms of risk. All these agents will work together to give us support in doing this. Now, you could look at this and say, yeah, this is great, sign me up. So I will happily sign you up, but we have to do a bit of preparation. So you're going to be on a journey somewhere in terms of thinking about this. And based on those polls, and the reason we had those polls is trying to work out where you are, most people we find are trying to figure out what this AI thing is. So on the left, is some people are like, yeah, it's the future. They're just drinking the Kool-Aid. And they haven't actually thought about the detail, but they're really just going for it with AI. On the right is people who are not too sure, and they know they need to think about the details and the processes and the data. So the way to do it is we go back to basics. We fix, well, by basics, I mean we think about the problem. Instead of just slapping AI onto everything, which a lot of people are doing, we get together and we workshop the problem. And that is this workshop I've mentioned a few times. Your account manager, reach out to them, they will hook you up with that. And we figure out, look at your problems. We come up with the appropriate solution, which will consist of many things and can consist of AI to solve that. We then start really small. Basic proof of concept, get you going. We expand this over time. Don't boil the ocean. This applies to everything. It especially applies to AI. It's not going to suddenly solve all the world's problems in one go. You've got to take small steps. So when you want to take those small steps, we start, and this is again something that applies to everything, we always start with the process. There's no silver bullet in terms of these things, and putting AI in is a technical activity, but it's not an IT project. Just like installing a project management system is for the project management people, it's not just an IT thing and suddenly it all works, okay? We think about the process, but we think about the culture and the people as well. So you do need to take that into account. If you suddenly start just jamming AI in there, what's the ripple impact going to be on all these people? We start small, so we manage that change and we see how it works for you. We start seeing what's your data actually like. Is this going to work for you? We then relook at your governance because AI needs data. Data needs to be governed. So we look at that and we clean your data. Then we classify your data. AI needs something you can understand. For existing data, you've probably got a lot of it. It'll help, but you may find you need to do a bit of prep work to actually get it into the right way. It's like, I'm going to get some stuff together, and then I'm going to take my new employee, my risk assistant through it, and I've structured it so they can understand it. Then you make sure it's secure. So in the beginning, I opened up by saying we use Microsoft AI solutions because they are secure. They will use your existing security. But if you don't have existing security, then what's it going to do? All it's going to do is expose problems, okay? Generally, that's okay because most of the people in this call are in organizations with low security. Then we start working, make this work for you, and you'll realize, do you actually have a process or not? And this takes you back to the front. Because if you do not have a process that's constantly working, creating new data, governing it, reporting it, creating new data, going around and around, your AI works for a few months and kind of grinds to a halt. Okay, so everything ultimately is about process. The AI helps you with that process, and this is one of the benefits to it, but someone must define what the process is. Now, it's all about cleaning the data. I've gone on about data for a few minutes there. So what does this mean? Okay, so first of all, it's about language. Everything we've been looking at so far today is actually language-based AI. So we need to manage our risk language in whatever tool we are recording these things in. So first of all, you need to start thinking about, well, there's language, but I want to understand impacts. If something is happening, I don't want to just know, oh, there's a risk. Okay, then I've still got to think. I've got to think, well, what does this risk mean? So make sure you are linking your risks to project deliverables, to milestones. Make sure dependencies between projects are in place. There's now dependencies within Meltus, and this is something you could use potentially as a backbone for this. If you do that, you're able to say, oh, there's a risk on this, and it impacts that milestone, impacts that deliverable, and impacts that other project. This is getting true insight. Okay? And then the AI can look and say, well, the result of that impact is strategically, you're not going to get that benefit, what it seems to be. If you do want the AI to do that type of thing for you, you do need some standardization. So that little agent in the beginning I showed you, that risk standards agent, it's a very simple thing, but PMO people get very excited about that one because it's making sure that their risks are well documented, okay, and done in a consistent way. So use something like that, or choose to rewrite it all yourself if you've got the time, but I'd rather use the agent. Format your risks because your risk is the data, okay? Remember, it's a language-based AI, so whatever's typed is the data this thing actually needs. But that data needs to be something a computer can use. AI is a computer at the end of the day, so we need to really think about a bit less text and a bit more selections, a bit more drop lists and things. This gives us a way to codify data. It gives us a way to be more consistent, and it's a lot less typing as well. I know it's a bit of a hassle. It changes things, the way you fill forms in, etc., but you get the AI to do it. But this means we have sort of a changing in how we view data and a changing how we record data, but this supports AI that makes things easier for us. You then do need to curate your data. If you've just got a big pile of stuff in SharePoint, and every few years the project management office gets restructured, and data's put in different places, and we've got some in Excel and half of it's in the project system, etc. The thing is, you want to get it all together, get it neat, clean it up, make that example list of this is the risks, these are the good ones, you clean some of the rubbish out, and then you've got something that AI can actually learn from. Then think about kind of closing the loop. Think about the treatments. So a lot of people do what I've said happens in the beginning is they have a risk register. That's it. That's where risk ends. That is recording risk. Risk management is many steps after that. So actually think about getting into your risks, how you're treating them, the risk the risk treatment actions, etc. Because then AI can look at it and say, you've got a risk here. The risk is overdue. Or I can see you are missing some governance activity or some treatment activity, because it essentially becomes tasks that it can manage for you. So think about recording what you're doing about the risk as well. Okay, as we now come to the end, we're going to look at some questions. I'm going to come back to, is it secure? Yes, it is secure. All of this using Microsoft AI specifically. If you're using some external service, if you go to ChatGPT or something else like that, and you're going to paste all your stuff in there, that's between you and your IT people because your data's gone out. We don't do that. We make sure that you have control of everything in your Microsoft tenant. Yes, it is very secure. We did have some questions, so I'm going to go through those. But before I do these, does anyone want to put their hand up or unmute? Anyone got any questions of their own? We've got 10 minutes left. Okay, if there are no questions, if anyone's putting them in the chat, Ellie, just let me know. I can't see the chat.
None at the moment.
So the first question was, what level of human control is required in engaging AI to support risk management? So a lot of the human control can be shifted across to agents or the governance, this type of thing. But that doesn't mean you get rid of the humans. You still need the human in the loop. You need humans checking. You need humans, first of all, building the agents. It's not like the AI just comes in and randomly does stuff. These things get built in your image and the way you want them to be. And they're following your instructions. So you have control. It's just like you hire a new person and you would train them. So you're doing the same thing. You instruct them. Then we make sure, like you saw that pop up in Teams saying, hey, I found a risk in the transcript. Do you agree? Which ones do you want? I want that one. And then I've written it for you. Do you agree to that? Yes, I do. And push the button, and then it goes in. So a human still gets to check and control. So what you've essentially got is these agents are your junior employees who you don't quite trust them. They go off, they do something, they come, you just verify their work, and it goes forward, but you don't have to do all of the work. The second question was, is there a role AI can play not only in suggesting or contemplating risks of a particular project, but also performing assurance over risks and their ratings? Yes, absolutely. This is what we are currently building a governance agent that does essentially this, that will do, you'll see it's the web of agents really, but the governance one is looking at, are these risks being updated and maintained? Are they becoming due? Are they going to become issues? Are people talking about them, but no one's actually updating them? Are there other risks out there, and this becomes an interesting one, who are very similar and have higher ratings than this one, but because these people have conscientiously linked the risks to deliverables and things, we can see what the impact is, but it does look like they're taking this seriously. This is the type of thing we can absolutely do with the agents quite easily. In the past, you would have to go in and write all this logic in a report or something to get it to do it for you. Now the agent can do it for us. Okay, the third question was, can the software apply risk ratings to projects based on criteria? Yes, this is exactly what it can do. Starting from, you've created a project, we can come up with the intelligent templated risks for you, and then we can use PMO standards. So if it's this type of risk, this is what's going on, this is the type of rating I actually expect on this, and then do some normalization across all the other risks in the system to make sure you don't have something being buried down the bottom that shouldn't be, or something is too high up than it needs to be. Licensing, fourth question is around licensing. This is a slightly complicated question, but not necessarily. What I've shown you today is a mix of Copilot. So you would need Microsoft Copilot, which a lot of you have probably got already, and a bit of Azure, Microsoft Azure, the Azure AI service. But generally for this is Copilot. Now, having said that, depending on how you set all this up, it doesn't mean everyone needs a Copilot license. Some people can use these without necessarily needing the license, just depends on what it is. And the tool you'd seen today was the Altus project management tool as well. And the last question was, can AI assist in the conversion of risks into issues? I had a bit of a think about this question because I'm like, well, in Altus, there's a workflow that will turn a risk into an issue for you. I thought, well, was that done? I thought, no, not really, because all we're doing then is updating, using one register to update another register. How are we supporting the management of this? So what I would do is I would build an agent that says whenever that workflow fires and converts a risk into an issue, the agent's going to look at it and think, who should know about this? Who should do something about this? And what are they going to do? Let me give them some suggestions. And then secondly, let me make sure they're actually doing something about it. So I send Eddie, for example, a notification saying, hey, this is now an issue. You should do these 3 things. The next day I'll go and check, did Eddie actually go and put these tasks into some sort of like a project plan or something like that? Because if not, she may have forgotten about it. Okay, so we're actually able to help with that. We have some time left. We have 7 minutes left. I'm going to stop talking now and just open up to questions. Any questions, any comments from anyone? While you are unmuting yourself, if you'd like to do that, or type into the chat. The offer is there if you would like a workshop to actually go through some of the thinking around the stuff. We are able to help you with that.
Yeah, Ryan, I'm in a catch up with someone yesterday. The suggestion was that there'd be a lot of value in, especially meeting minutes, actually being used to update risks. Basically, because often we talk about, how we're going to solve those problems, and rather than just creating them, look at the current risks that are open. Do any of them align to the meeting minutes that we talked about? Maybe closing out a risk, or is it mitigated, or maybe has the risks, scale being decreased? So yeah, I think that's a really good use case for it as well.
I think that would be a really good use case. You're right. It's not only the creation of the risks, but it's where humans are doing the work to talk about the updating of the risk, instead of then having to have to go and type it in or change it. Get an agent to do it. Get an agent to detect it, look at the differences, and then send you that notification to say, hey, I think your risk profile's changed, or this individual risk has changed. Do you agree? You just say yes, and it's updated for you. Easy.
It might actually really change the way that people actually have conversations about project work as well, because you might start, having your project meeting, and it turns out that you're actually directing your agents to start managing your project, which is a totally different concept again, but I think it will happen.
It's actually happening already. So I've been in a few sessions with clients in the last couple of weeks where they've actually said, and for the purposes of the transcript, I'm saying it like this, and they very carefully explain something, and then they go on with some general stuff. So they're using it just for their own with Copilot internally for themselves, but people are starting to talk as if there is a transcriber or a stenographer or someone in the room, or there's the simplistic person I've got to explain things to. So yeah, you're right. I think language will start changing and the way we talk will change. Okay, any other questions? My hand has gone up. Sarah?
Yeah, so how do you deal with the issue of poor quality transcripts? So we've got we make a recording, we get the transcript, but then the AI is unable to interpret it. It's missing who says what, and yeah, I'm curious if there are any tricks of the trade that I could use to fix that.
Are you using Copilot?
Yes, we're using Copilot.
Interesting. Okay. I think that would need a different discussion. I can't think of everything off the top of my head, but it's not a problem that I've been finding recently. Maybe we can talk offline and I can see if I can figure something out.
Sure. Thanks.
Kate, your hand's gone up.
Yeah, Ryan, I was just going to say to the previous question is, I don't know if you're in the same meeting room, you probably need to set up in Teams and stuff, distinguishing your voice potentially. There's the opportunity to do that. So obviously if you're in individual calls and calling in, it should pick up your name. Like for me, I'll use, for example, when I'm doing minutes of meeting, I'll put in, please create detailed minutes of meeting and include agreed decisions, any new business functional requirements, any new risk and issues, create task actions. Please change Kathleen to Kate and put it in Australian English language, for example. So I have an actual set metadata description in my transcript, but to the point that Ben was saying before about risks, I mean, one of the things I was just going to say there is, obviously I do agile stand-up, so I don't use transcript at the moment for that, but I do have at the back obviously blockers or raids. Please identify new raids. So I think that'll change potentially the behaviour too. If you want to bring this up into an agile world as well with your daily stand-ups, we normally don't record them, if that makes sense. So that's where my general discussion would happen with my team about new raids, and then obviously my housekeeping when I update them on a weekly basis, then transfer them. So just maybe something to consider in changing behaviours and operating rhythms.
Yeah, thank you, Kate. So it's very much about the prompting essentially. But just working backwards, Sarah, I would say that there's just a bit of setup in your teams that's probably missing in terms of it being able to distinguish different people. I think Charity, put your hand up.
Oh no, I put it back down again. It was an accident, but I did actually put a question in the chat. I
can't see the chat. Do you want to read it?
Yeah. I was just saying, like at APA, we have quite a bit of customization. So I'm never quite sure what's out of the box in Altus and what have we created. But we have a dependency tab, and it would be great for like PMs whenever they create a dependency for it to automatically then create an associated risk, because in our environment, dependencies are always risks. And then, Copilot, just populate that based on the dependency data.
Yeah, this can be done. Like that, to me, that's actually a very simple use case. So chat to your account manager, definitely can help you with
that. Ryan, we also have one question from Susan. I'll read it out for you. Okay. How do you get the agents? Is this something you need to enable for us or something our internal digital team does?
It's a question. The answer can be both. It depends on what the agent is and exactly what technology is going to be used. So you are able to create agents yourself. So within Copilot, you can create these directly yourself. But when you want them to start doing some of the things I've done today, is like I wanted to update Altus, etc. I would chat to Sensei first about that. So it'll probably be easier if we do some of those for you. But a lot of agents you'll find you can build yourself. They've been created that way. This workshop that we were talking about earlier on. This is the kind of stuff we go through. We help you figure out there's so many different options, all the different options out there, which ones you do, which ones you need us for, and you'll be amazed at the interesting stuff you can actually do yourself. Okay, 1 minute left. Any questions? Because the rest of you, I have to get back to doing financial year things. But happy year first time, everyone. Okay, if there are no other questions, thank you all very much. I hope this was useful to you. Reach out if you have anything. Ellie, I will leave it for you to wrap up.
I'm going to take over for Ellie on this because her computer has just shut down on her. But we'll keep an eye out for our next Ask an Expert. It's upcoming events from July onwards, so we'll let you know about that. And please get in touch with your account manager if you'd like to find out any more information. And of course, you can always follow us on LinkedIn or get in touch if you've got a question. Thank you all for attending today. We'll see you all soon.
Thanks all. Thanks, Liz. Bye.
Liz.